So let's start with the easiest type of test to improve at multiple choice standardized exams. These include tests like the SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, MCAT, the bar exam, CFA, CPA, CAT, PSCT, UPSC, GCSEs, and almost every other 3 to 4 letter acronym, except for the baccalaureate. France's National University Entrance Exam, which is almost entirely written essays. But I assume French students don't mind that. If they don't know an answer, they can at least cut out the blank response box and wave it around. For the rest of us, though, we deal with multiple choice questions. Here's a tip that works especially well for math. And I first learned it from a YouTube video titled, "This will make you better at math tests, but you're probably not doing it." I expected the usual advice you find online: study, sleep well, eat a healthy breakfast, arrive early, drink water, stay calm. Check your answers. Basically, the tips you search for the night before the exam when you're out of motivation to keep studying. But the video shared something I had never heard before. Speed makes you better at math. You need to solve problems quickly. After you've studied and done everything required for the class, you should work on speed, solving problems fast and correctly. Speed doesn't only help you finish the test. It lets you redo the test. Yes, you complete it once, then you do it again. Not by skimming, by resolving the problems. Then compare your answers. There's a big difference between glancing over your work and redoing it. When you only look at your work, mistakes are harder to notice. When you redo the problem, you're less likely to repeat the same error. At first, this didn't make much sense to me. Sure, it helps to get through a math test quickly, but I assumed speed meant rushing, and everyone knows rushing is bad. I didn't think about it again until I remembered another video. It showed a guy recording himself completing the entire SAT math, no calculator section, in 5 minutes, without knowing the questions beforehand. Watching him flip the pages before I even read the first problem felt like the SAT version of watching a chess grandmaster pre-move an entire match. What's surprising is that while this looks impossible, it's actually reachable. Anyone can learn it. Speed isn't rushing. It's using more efficient techniques to reach the answer. For example, let's try a problem. The answer isn't immediately obvious. For all real numbers x, 7/8 plus 10/x equals what? The formal method is cross-multiplying. Multiply the denominators, then multiply across, then add the terms. In this case, that gives 7x plus 80 over 8x, meaning the answer is D. But what if you don't remember the method? You don't need to stare at the question or waste time. You can just plug in numbers. If x equals 1, the expression becomes 87/8. Then plug x equals 1 into the answer choices. Only choice D matches, so D must be correct. Another useful way to move faster is learning to recognize common trap answers. These are the answers students get when they don't know the method and instead invent new math rules, like adding fractions by adding both numerators and denominators, or multiplying both, or mixing them incorrectly. It's not the test writer's fault. They're not trying to make you fail. They're probably just writing questions quickly, trying to finish their work. And these wrong options are the easiest to generate. So take advantage of that if you're a strong test taker. Then even when you don't have enough time to solve the entire question, or use the shortcut, or even plug in numbers, you can at least eliminate the answer choices that look like common mistakes. Just cross them out, and from there you can make a more accurate 50-50 guess. But to be honest, if you want to get even faster at solving questions, you will likely need to practice with more problems. Of course, that is easy to say. Practice tests can feel boring, and sometimes you lose concentration and end up spending an hour rereading the same question again and again. This is why I think it's not a bad idea to go on YouTube and watch other people solve practice problems. Just search the name of the test you're preparing for, follow along, and you'll find people explaining problems step by step. Ideally, you would work through the questions yourself, but realistically, watching solutions takes less effort, saves time, and exposes you to a wider range of problems and methods without having to complete a full practice exam from start to finish. Shorter format. Shortform. Today's Shortform sponsor. It's an app that condenses thousands of top nonfiction books into complete guides. I've been using it since May, and although it doesn't replace full books, it helps me learn ideas from far more titles than I normally could. For example, everyone recommends reading Influence by Robert Cialdini. But committing to that as my one monthly book, plus getting the physical copy and finding the time to read it, creates a lot of friction. With this app, it's just one click to enter a book, two more clicks to switch to another. It also includes dark mode. I use it on both desktop and mobile. It has categories for everything, and new books are added every week. Plus, if you sign up through the linkshort.com, eliminate the answer choices that look like common mistakes. Just cross them out, and from there you can make a more accurate 50-50 guess. But to be honest, if you want to get even faster at solving questions, you will likely need to practice with more problems. Of course, that is easy to say. Practice tests can feel boring, and sometimes you lose concentration and end up spending an hour rereading the same question again and again. This is why I think it's not a bad idea to go on YouTube and watch other people solve practice problems. Just search the name of the test you're preparing for, follow along, and you'll find people explaining problems step by step. Ideally, you would work through the questions yourself, but realistically, watching solutions takes less effort, saves time, and exposes you to a wider range of problems and methods without having to complete a full practice exam from start to finish. Shorter format, Shortform, today's Shortform sponsor. It's an app that condenses thousands of top nonfiction books into complete guides. I've been using it since May, and although it doesn't replace full books, it helps me learn ideas from far more titles than I normally could. For example, everyone recommends Reading Influence by Robert Cialdini, but committing to that as my one monthly book, plus getting the physical copy and finding the time to read it, creates a lot of friction. With this app, it's just one click to enter a book, two more clicks to switch to another. It also includes dark mode. I use it on both desktop and mobile. It has categories for everything, and new books are added every week. Plus, if you sign up through the linkshort.com, you actually get a 5-day free trial plus a 20% discount on the annual subscription. It's the first link below if you want to claim the discount and free trial. If that interests you, feel free to try it. Anyway, back to my favorite low-effort study method, simply watching other people on YouTube solve practice problems. When the test comes, you may be surprised by how much you absorbed just from watching. And yes, actively solving the questions yourself is better, but if you truly cannot focus, then it's more useful to spend 2 hours watching 40 to 50 problems being solved than to spend 1 hour stuck on a single question and then needing a break. YouTube is also great for learning shortcuts and useful techniques. For example, this video explains how to solve a difficult integral in about 20 seconds. Another video shows a problem that usually takes 5 minutes, but gives you a formula to complete it in 5 seconds. So just search for shortcuts, strategies, or tricks for the test you're taking. You might learn things you won't find in textbooks or typical prep guides. Here's one of the most effective study tips I've learned from YouTube. And it works anytime you need to read a passage and answer questions, like on the SAT, ACT, GRE, LSAT, or MCAT. Usually, the people who create the test also write the answer key with clear explanations for why each incorrect option is definitely wrong and why the correct option is definitely right. These explanations must be based on facts or evidence from the passage, not opinions. So when you're taking the test and stuck between option A and option B, imagine that you are the person writing the answer key. If A is wrong, there must be a factual reason explaining why. And if B is correct, there must be solid evidence from the passage supporting it. Try to choose the answer that would allow for the strongest explanation. This mental shift helps you earn more points because it forces you to think the way the test maker thinks. But up to this point, I haven't mentioned the most important factor in performing well on any test: studying. So here are my best tips to make studying easier. Number 1, avoid analysis paralysis. A major barrier to studying is wasting time. Thinking about what to study or how you plan to study is fine, but at some point you need to actually follow the plan. Choose the methods that have worked for you before and use them again. If nothing seems effective, try the classic approach: reading textbooks and completing practice problems. It may feel dull, but it's reliable. Number 2, have an academic emergency fund. A major risk to most students is falling behind, and once you start slipping, it becomes easier to fall further. Stay one chapter ahead or a few days ahead of schedule. Give yourself a cushion. You don't want to be the person trying to make a comeback on the second day of the semester. Number 3, if you reshort on time and the test can include 10 different types of problems, it's better to practice 2 examples of each type than to do 20 problems from only one category. Number 4. Be honest with yourself. Does studying with others actually help? Or is it simply that you avoid your phone, YouTube, and distractions because people are watching? It may feel like a small trick, but it's worth trying. First, you can't use your phone while it's recording. Second, you know you'll rewatch the time-lapse later, which raises the stakes and keeps you focused. Number 5. If you need to memorize information, like steps in a procedure, scientific terms, or anything else, you can use active recall. Flashcards are one method, but you can also turn your notes into questions. For example, explain the role of the mitochondria, or list the parts of the brain and describe what each part does. Later, try answering those questions while covering the section of your notes that contains the answers. This is easy if your notes are typed. In Notion, you can create toggles by typing /toggle, then copy and paste as many as you need. Click the arrow to write a question above and place the answer below, hiding or showing it whenever you want. You can do something similar in Google Docs by highlighting the answer and changing the text color to white so it becomes invisible. But remember, this method won't work for everyone. Sometimes it's better to take notes in whatever way helps your brain make connections. It does not have to be active recall, Cornell Notes, or any specific format. Use the style that works for you. Tip number 6. Studying for a test will always require effort. You can make it more enjoyable, you can work with friends, and you can use ChatGPT to give you practice questions or explain concepts. But in the end, setting a Pomodoro timer is not studying. Training an AI model with your textbook is not studying. Creating a study schedule is not studying. And thinking about how you will study is not studying.